Hello fans. Blackbox Simulations have released an update to their excellent BN2 Islander for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So I figured what better way to let you see it than to fly from Britten Norman's new home of Solent Airport on the sunny south coast of England to their old home of Bembridge on the Isle of Wight. A short trip of about 11 miles just across the Solent. So we'll roll the intro while I get comfortable, have a drink of water, you go and get one too, and then we'll dive straight in. So the first thing that's immediately noticeable is that they've added a lot of ground equipment, boarding steps, covers, engine covers, pedo covers, stuff like that. So that's a nice touch, and the textures look better. They're still not perfect, but they look good enough, and especially they don't seem to challenge my little NSI Leopard too much. So jump in the cockpit. Everything that's changed in here is nice. We've got a little clipboard down here where you can add in all the ground equipment, which I think was copied over from the original Trilander. We also have this little stopwatch now, which works and lets you reset it, record times and stuff like that. So you've got the door control switches over on this side. You can hide the yokes by just clicking on them, and if you hide the second yoke as well, it'll get rid of the rudder pedals and the steps as well, so it'll make it into a proper single pilot aircraft, which is a nice little touch. A few of the processes have changed as well, and you can click on this little ASPEN avionics sticker as well here, which will replace it with the ASPEN EFIS, which is it's all right, but it's kind of nice flying it old-fashioned world. So you can now click on most of these, obviously when the battery is on, to test the lights as per standard procedure. We've also, the cocks always seem to default to off as well, so you need to rotate those around or else you'll have no fuel into the engine whatsoever and won't be flying today. The map light does also work as well. So the other thing that we need to do that you didn't have to do before is a starter isolator switch down here. That goes to on when you're starting and disables the external power and goes off again when your engines are running. So startup process is pretty straightforward. So we turn the battery on, we turn the isolator off, obviously the lights as required. I'll keep the yoke while it's hid because it's a bit awkward trying to click things underneath it. Standard process for the Islander. The engines are air cooled, so propped all the way forward to full pitch, and also obviously fuel fully forward. Crack the throttle a little bit, doesn't need a huge amount. Fuel pumps on overhead, magnetos on, covers off for the starter switch, and obviously don't need to clear prop because there's no real people here. Push and hold until it catches, and that's the start on engine 1. So we're going to bring the generator on and repeat the process with engine 2. It's a very straightforward aircraft to fly. We've done that, you can get everything else set up how you like it, get the avionics on, and you are pretty much good to go at that point. So we'll sort out our clearances and we'll be back in a minute when we're ready to taxi out. Alright, so that's all fired up and good to go. Transponders on. We're not going to use the autopilot for this, it's only a short flight. We're just going to bomb it over to sea. One other thing worth noting is that with this update they've also added in all the circuit breakers pretty much are working. Carb icing is also modelled, so you need to watch this. If it drops into the yellow, basically the process is smash the heaters down to full, leave it for about 30 seconds and then gradually pull it back till it's just enough to keep it out. Obviously you've also got full engine and airframe anti-icing windscreen heating down there, which we got on for this, although we shouldn't need it. And your outside air temperature indicators here, so these also work. And that also opens as well. So with that taken care of,
Echo Golf Hotel Foxtrot
taxi
traffic
out.
slower at 03.
Runway
Taxiing to runway
23
23.
is from the left from here, so we head out just a little bit of throttle. She doesn't need much. We're moving, and this is runway 23 right here. So general process, we feed in about 5% flaps, that's all we need. We'll also, while we're taxiing, change the source to the GPS as well. So we're not going to use the autopilot, but may as well. There's actually a park off here to the left. It's not modelled in the sim at the moment, but it made me very happy. We did get a bit of a better airport for Daedalus. The Britten Norman factory is over that direction. Final checks. Everything is looking promising. So
Echo Golf Hotel Foxtrot traffic slower at 03.
simply a
Taking
case
off runway
of
23 west
lining up,
departure.
smashing the throttle fully open, and as soon as we're up, she'll climb out at 10 degrees, aim for about 80 to 90 knots on the climb out. Can put flaps up pretty much straight away on her. She just loves to fly. So she's exceptional at short takeoff. If anybody ever does find their way down to the Solent, down to the left next to the tower there's an excellent cafe as well called the Cafe 05. So we'll pull our flaps up, kill the fuel pumps. Is going to be very short here, but pretty much as soon as we're out, you can pull the props back to about 2500.
Solent approach slower at 03 is tight Britten
the
Norman
throttle
Islander
back
1
to
mile southwest of Echo Golf Hotel Foxtrot
25
700 feet.
manifold pressure,
Request flight following.
and that's pretty much a good benchmark for flying her in general, to be honest. She's quite happy around that. You can also obviously pull the throttle back, pull the fuel back. I normally pull it back till the engines make a kind of slight drop.
Roger, slower at
And
03.
then push her back in, and then that's a happy medium for her. As I said, it's a very short flight today to Bembridge, very cloudy. It's a lovely part of the world to go. Do you find your way down here? Obviously, if anybody would like to see a video about either the Islander itself or just the area, Solent Airport, that kind of thing, just leave me a message in the comments and I'll see what I can put together. So Bembridge is just off our nose up here. So we wouldn't normally fly this low, but I've got memories of the Islander around these parts. Obviously, it was used extensively in the London Olympics. Also used in Skyfall, I believe, was the Bond film which featured one. And Hampshire Police used to operate one out of this very airport, Daedalus, not Bembridge, which we used to see flying around all the time until they got rid of their own air unit and merged with the MSFS service and their helicopters. I believe they had they want a PPL rather than a commercial license as well, so they draw from existing constables. Fun fact there for you. So ordinarily we're going to be flying a bit longer. We'd feed in some carb icing at this point, but as we're going to be settling down in no time, there's not really much point. As you can see, very, very easy to keep flying, keep straight. So what we'll do is we'll just pass over Bembridge, and then as we do, we'll drop the flaps and just come straight in. Seaside, as the wind's blowing from the west. That's the word I was looking for. Got a nice little museum down there as well. There's quite a lot of good aviation museums. If anybody heads around Bournemouth direction, there's an excellent one next to Alice in Wonderland World, which is brilliant for taking the kids to. This is basically just a bunch of cockpits in a field, and you're allowed to play with all the buttons, clamber around them. Kids can burn days making up games there. It's a fan favourite with all three of mine. So as promised, this is nice and short, so we're just going to pull off some speed at 115 knots. We can get the flaps down. Going to pull out to the sea end. It's going to be an incredibly sloppy, very, very short final. But more than capable of performing in these. So we'll trim her out a little bit, just try to sink. And as we come in, we will at 115, feed in the first lot of flaps. And we're sinking a bit as well, so generally keep the speed around 100 knots on the approach if I can. And I'm terrible at multitasking. I should probably put the fuel pumps on here as well. But, it's not going to matter for this one. And I don't have my VR or track IR, so we're not going to be able to follow the runway very easily as we're using the Hats. There she is. As you can see, it's not the cleanest approach. Also not sure what that artifact is. That's a flight sim thing rather than a model thing, because I've seen that on many. Something to do with the lighting. Right, feeding the second set of flaps. This is going to be a messy approach, but again, you're more than capable of settling down. Nice and easy on her. We'll keep her around 85, 90 knots. Whilst being conscious of the fact we don't want to park in all these trees. Could be something to do with the anti-air and all that spec thing. There we go. Full power, coming a little bit fast with full flaps there.
Echo Golf Hotel Juliet, traffic Slowbird 03, 1 mile southeast, 100 feet, inbound to land runway 30.
Is that? She's on the ground. And we're at Bembridge on the Isle of Wight. So ignoring the fire engine, which is definitely not the right sort for an airport like this, I hope you've enjoyed this first look at the BN2 Islander update, the version 2 free update from Blackbox. It's really nice to see a developer continuing to support an aircraft with free updates of this quality after its release as well. It's something a lot of developers could learn from. The Islander itself, easy to fly, reliable, capable of operating in all kinds of icing conditions, fantastic for short field stuff. It's a really good early plane if you're doing stuff like FS Economy or FS Charter, things like that as well. Obviously let me know if you want any videos on this, on that. I've been Lord Roll, and I will see you again soon.